Welcome to Leadership Matters, a podcast from the Bailey Group. I'm your host, Kaylee Thomsen, president of and partner at the Bailey Group, where we believe better leaders create healthier workplace environments, healthier humans, and a better world. On this show, we explore real stories, practical insights, and honest conversations to help you lead yourself and others better. Thanks for joining us. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Leadership Matters. I'm your host, Kaylee Thomsen, and today I'm joined by Laura Best, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and coach. Laura, it's so great to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. It's lovely to be here.
So one of the reasons why I'm so excited to have you here is your thought leadership around unlocking passion to drive real and meaningful results. Where does your passion for passion come from, Laura?
That's a good question, because now I say my passion is helping other people find theirs, which is sort of a fun way to put it. I spent a couple of decades building a corporate marketing leadership career. I spent a lot of time in big corporate, small startups, agencies. I was creating a model of success for myself that I thought I wanted. And I'll talk about, checking the boxes that I thought that I had in front of me for success. Building quite a bit of skill, if I may say so. Hopefully some respect and experience along the way. But in 2014, I got to a point where I realized that even though I had got good at my career, I'd become established and was doing all the things I was meant to be doing, I realized that I had truly disconnected from the work that I originally loved to do. And in building this idea of success and this successful life, I had got to this point where I didn't even know, frankly, what my passions were anymore, inside or outside of work. And I was a new mum at the time as well. I'm a Brit living in America, so far away from family. There's a lot of that going on, but I was definitely burnt out. But it was almost deeper than that, this disconnection and this dislocation. So I started getting curious about it. I felt sorry for myself for a little bit after I realized this. And then I got curious and started a community called Passion Collective. And my thought there was, this can't just be me. Even though I was in my mid-30s, I thought there have to be other people, particularly women at the time, who are feeling the same way. And how on earth can we do more of what we love in our work and our life? That's how I started this journey of passion. I really wanted to explore what it meant to do more of what we loved. Like, is it even possible?
Wow. What did you learn from those early days?
It seems it was almost 12 years ago now, so it seems like a different world. I started literally, and I'm kind of proud of myself for this, because when you're burnt out, it is difficult to start something that you used to love or you think you might love again. It takes a bit of bravery. But I started doing some of the things I used to love again. It sounds super, super simple. But when I started Passion Collective, I told myself, right, what do you miss about the work that you used to love to do? And when you're building a leadership career, sometimes you get quite distanced from the work, don't you? And that's sometimes part of the deal is you get into people leadership and you're not as close to the work that you used to do. So I realized that I missed true writing. I used to write a lot of decks. We all write a lot of PowerPoint decks in bullet points, right, in little sentences. But I missed stories. Wow. And I also missed bringing people together in a meaningful way. And I was also getting really frustrated with the traditional networking events that were quite prevalent back then, hello, what do you do? And not really having an answer. So I started with those two things. So I started a series called Passion Stories, where I basically interviewed people who were doing passionate things and asked them, how are you doing it? And now we've done almost 200 of those stories over the years. So that's pretty cool. And then I started producing wonderful, meaningful, intimate events for women to come together and share and encourage and support each other and make it a treat-like experience. And those, we don't do those anymore, but they were wonderful, warm, encouraging events. And the minute I started doing more of that work, I remember after driving home after one of the events we did initially with Passion Collective, there was this strange energy inside. And I was thinking, what is this? And now I know it was my passion. It was my passion because I'd started going back into the work that I love to do. And it was a weird moment of, it was in there all along. It's not like I just went to Target and bought a packet of passion off the shelf. It's like, it's been there. And it didn't truly take that much to rediscover what it was. I think the hardest part after that was realizing, that feels good. That feels much better.
Yeah.
How do we create a life with more of that in it?
One of the things that strikes me is just how self-aware you were throughout that process, both into the burnout and then out of the burnout, and feeling some of these shifts happening internally for you. What were some of the early signs that now looking back, you're like, I should have followed that sooner or listened to that sooner?
I remember even before starting Passion Collective, when my daughter, I was in the last week of maternity leave, and I was walking her around one of the lakes. I think it was Lake of the Isles here in town. And it was a beautiful springish day, kind of like today. And I remember it was about 2:00 in the afternoon. And I was looking at these people who were walking around the lake. And I was just about to go back to work the next week, right? Full-time gig, very demanding job. There was no middle grounds. I was going to leap right back into it because that was the choice at the time. And I remember looking at these people thinking, what are they doing? It's 2:00 in the afternoon. Is this their life? How is this even possible? What? You sort of see this different life of people enjoying their life outside of work, being with their friends, and realizing to myself, I'm in mostly a windowless office for 8 to 10 hours a day, doing work that I'm good at and I'm contributing and I'm grateful for, but it's not lighting me up. So some of this even happened before the moment of starting this community. And then obviously now there's so much more to it. But I think it's that realization that, this isn't what I expected. And there is something different out there. But the really hard part about those realizations, and I guess it's easier for me to talk about it now because I've gone through 12 years of this and built things as I went. But there's a giant gap between having that moment of recognition for yourself. There's almost a guilt and a shame that comes with it because, well, what have I been building then? And now I find myself at this crossroads where perhaps I want something different, but you're not sure what it is. And you're certainly not sure how on earth you get to have more of that in your life. And that can be a really tricky spot to find yourself in. And many people find themselves in those spots, obviously. So working through those and trying different ways through it, collaborating with other people, building community was really my way of figuring it out and learning along the way. And I still haven't got all the answers, but I know a bit more than I did back then.
Yeah. Wow. I heard community was a really important ingredient in helping you process through that time. What were one or two of the other necessary ingredients for you navigating through that?
I had to put myself first more often. And many, I call it, passion first leaders now, but purposeful leaders or even servant leaders spend a lot of their time putting everybody else first before themselves, which is honorable and noble. And with many of probably your clients, business builders, entrepreneurs, in many ways, you have to do that, right? To get anything off the ground and growing, you have to invest an awful lot in yourself for other people or other things. But we can lose sight of the fact that if we're always putting other people before ourselves and truly never giving ourselves even an hour at the weekend to do something that we love, that balance is way, way off. So I started asking my husband to take on a little bit more around the house. He's a wonderful partner, but I had to sort of be like, okay, well, maybe it's okay if I go to this, I don't know, art gallery opening. Can you look after Sophia for the next 2 hours? Sure. And just taking really small steps in realizing that I had to create my own space and also my own plan. I had to take control of this. Putting yourself first is incredibly important, but losing sight of yourself in that process is where many of us find ourselves. And so once you start realizing you don't recognize yourself anymore, that's where you've got to stop and put more back into you.
So build the case for us. Laura, how is it that unlocking this passion can really be transformative in the lives of individuals and the teams that they're on and the organizations they serve?
Yeah, I love this question. I love this question. Well, I mean, the science is there. There's an incredible amount of science around the positive mental and physical benefits to pursuing your passion. But first of all, let me tell you about the two different types of passion. Because often passion gets sort of lumped into sort of this one big category. And it's very misunderstood, especially in the workplace. Sometimes it's seen as this woo-woo fluffy thing that, passion? No, that doesn't exist in the workplace. And often there's some sort of darker sides to passion that we don't want in the workplace, right? Sometimes organizations are much more comfortable at talking about purpose because it's more distant. It's further out there, and it's something that organizations feel can be a unifier. But in actual fact, if purpose isn't connected to the employees' passions, then there's a massive missed opportunity. So the type of passion that we want to be nurturing in ourselves and in our teams is called harmonious passion. And this comes from a model from a group of academics led by a guy called Robert Vallerand in the early 2000s, I believe. And they came up with what is known as the dualistic model of passion. Doesn't that sound fancy?
I love it.
And so there's harmonious passion and there's obsessive passion. Harmonious passions are proven to lift us up and lift other people up. So they're the types of activities that you feel a strong enthusiasm, devotion, desire for that complement your life as well as those around you. It doesn't bring you down. It doesn't damage or destroy anybody else. It actually has the opposite effect. It complements you. It also, sometimes when you have a harmonious passion, it becomes part of your identity. So, you might meet someone at a networking event and they say, "Hi, my name's Jack. I'm a VP of finance and I'm also a triathlete," right? I mean, that's an extreme example. Triathletes, I mean, all power to you. But, the type of people who have multiple things in their LinkedIn profile. And it's like, wow, they're into some cool stuff. They have harmonious passions. Obsessive passions are really the dark side of passion. So they're the type of activities that can damage or destroy relationships and can truly bring yourself and other people down and into dark spaces. So we don't want to be pursuing obsessive passions. I mean, that's sort of addiction territory. That's dangerous activity territory.
Sure.
But harmonious passions are proven, and they've got all the science, Robert Vallerand and co., and many others, to show that our physical and mental health benefits. So think about it. Even if you do an hour of something that you love or you think you might love, and you're exploring that, when you finish that hour, you probably feel better than when you started.
Yeah.
When I go into businesses and I do my workshops around passion, I often ask people, what does passion feel like to you? And we give it a name. I know it sounds a little bit woo-woo, but it's a super fun exercise because passion feels different to everybody. That feeling that you get after just a short time of engaging with something that you love can give you immense benefits. It can also give you a ton of confidence to go out and share that with other people, which can then have that domino effect. So for individuals, I believe that doing more of what we love is foundational to our health and happiness. It's not an optional extra. It's not a luxury, even though sometimes we need to have time, money, support to do it. It's really foundational to who we are. Within organizations, as I said, if there's a strong purpose and mission, strong organizations are going to connect that to the passions of their employees and ask their employees and enable their employees to bring more of that into the organization. The employee's contribution grows, so does their happiness and fulfillment, theoretically. It's not easy to do, but it makes sense, right, to connect those dots.
Yeah. So in practice, what does it look like to be I think you said passion-first leader?
Yes. I love that. Passion-first leader. Well, it's kind of, exactly how the name implies. I am not the type of expert who tells us that we should be doing our passions 24/7. I mean, we all live in the real life, right? So we have mortgages, bills, kids to pick up from soccer. who hasn't put in a load of laundry at 11 o'clock at night? Because, there's that thing about Beyonce having the same 24 hours as we do. And I often am like, yeah, but she's never put an emergency load of laundry in at 11 o'clock at night, like exhausted in her PJs. I'm sure she hasn't. So, there is that. When I talk about being passion first, and especially passion first leadership, it's about weaving more of what you love into your day and into your life. So maybe it's an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 that you are doing individually. You are engaging with your passions that way. My dad used to say, we can't just trip gaily down the aisles at work every day. He was a big, passionate man, but there's still responsibilities, right? There's people we lead and love that we don't want to leave behind. You probably remember the book and the film Eat, Pray, Love from years ago. She goes to the desert island for a year and, nice? Amazing. We can't all do that. And oftentimes we don't want to leave that behind. Yeah. So being a passion-first leader is, first of all, being really clear about your own passions. I mean, if you're literally functioning at a leadership level by grinding it out, getting your you-know-what done, hitting your goals, driving forward, and you find it hard to articulate or express why you love some or all of what you do, even at work, spend some time on your own passions to really get clear about what it is about this work that you love to do. Because the biggest thing that leaders can do in building any healthy culture is modeling, right? So if my leader is out there, so if Bill is telling me why he loves these complex type of financial auditing projects, which may not sound thrilling to non-financial people, but to him, he loves it. If he can share that enthusiasm, devotion, desire, articulate it with his team, even in the smallest way, that's giving permission for his team to also express their passion or not. The second piece that passion-first leaders are really, really competent at is having strong, authentic, two-way conversations with their team. So in weekly one-on-ones, for example, instead of asking, so how's your weekend? Maybe getting more curious about, what have you done recently that totally lit you up, that you just loved? And sit back and let your team member tell you this thing that they did at the weekend that was totally weird, they hadn't done for ages, but they absolutely loved it. Have that conversation more often, and your employee then is giving you, I like to think of it like they're giving you gold, because they're telling you what lights them up, what makes them tick. And sure, just because you love, I don't know, fishing or baking cakes at the weekend, no one's saying that now a passion-first leader has to enable you to come in and bake cakes every day in your corporate job. That's not going to happen. But there are components of that passion that as a passion-first leader, you can identify. And then you can begin to see your employee more as a human and as someone who you can enable with opportunities within the organization. I mean, passion at work is about, if you think about it, I talk about this Venn diagram, right? Where on the right-hand side, you've got, if I'm the employee, I've got my passions that hopefully I've got clear about. Then on the other side, there are the organizational goals, mission, vision, values, and all that sort of structural piece of the business. What we're trying to find as passion-first leaders is that overlap. We're trying to find how the employees' passions can have a greater contribution to the business and vice versa, and doing that in a way that isn't just piling on another to-do list for your employee just because they said they liked something. It's really partnering with the employee to say, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you loved music, Eric. Would you love to come and DJ the next team event?
Yeah.
And maybe no one's seen Eric in that light before, but maybe that's the best thing he's done all month as part of his role in the company. And all of that, it's all ingredients, right, to having a more satisfying and fulfilling job. So those are, there's many, many things that passion-first leaders can do, but those are some of the elementary practices that I think we can all take on.
So if I'm an employee or an individual right now listening, and I really relate with the first part of your story around, I didn't feel like myself, I couldn't identify myself in this, I was headed toward burnout, I was putting everybody and everything before myself and my own needs and passions. How would you encourage me to go about discovering what those are?
Well, the first thing you've got to do, and I will talk to you as you, even though I know that you're doing so much passionate work, you've got to remind yourself and truly believe that you deserve to live a happy and fulfilled life.
So powerful.
You have to. And, it was so funny. I got trolled on this a couple of weeks ago on a YouTube video I did. And I kind of love getting trolled because it shows that people are paying attention. But this guy was like, no one's entitled to happiness. No one's entitled to fulfillment. That is just pure entitlement. You have to work for it. And I'm like, well, you're just sort of proving my point here, dude. Sure, see it as entitlement if you want, but it seems to be a rather sad way to view life. You are an incredible, unique, wonderful human being who has so much to offer to this world. You deserve to be happy and fulfilled. We have one life. That's it, unless you're a Buddhist or have other, religious beliefs. But truly, we all think we've got this time. We really do, and hopefully we do, but maybe we don't. You have to believe that you deserve this because otherwise no change is possible, right? That's always the first step in any change process. Then the second piece, which may sound a bit throwaway in some ways, but is so very important, is often if you hit that point where you think, oh, I've lost my mojo, or I think my spark's gone, or I don't love this anymore, take a really honest look at how well you're taking care of yourself. Because we're so good at charging forward. We're so good at running. Me and my friends talk about it as running through our days. Run, multitask. You get to Sunday night and it's like, whoa, we need another 2 days in the weekend. And often that's a good thing. But are you truly taking care of yourself in terms of all the things we know we should do? Sleep, nutrition, exercise. If that's the case, then you've really got to start looking back. And I know that sounds crazy because so many of us are trained to look forward. And, in ourselves even, we think, oh, that was in the past. That's my past life. Oftentimes when you feel like you've lost your spark, the hardest part about it is you can't even remember what that feels like. And you don't have any ideas for how to change moving forward. So you're sort of stuck in the middle. There's an exercise that's in the book and also I teach called Reach Back. And it's a way for us to think about times in your life and particularly in your work where you actually really love doing something. And it might be a project that you totally forgotten you were part of. Maybe it was a type of work that you no longer get the chance to do anymore. Or maybe it's non-work activities like sports or something that you think you're too old for right now, or that's just not me anymore. We tend to dismiss some of these things. If we look at them in detail and we figure out what the components were of those activities, why did we love those? Then it can really help give us clues to what we can adapt for the chapter of life we're in right now. So just because you loved skiing when you were in your early 20s, and used to absolutely love it, you're a diehard skier, and now maybe you're 55, you may say, oh, my knees can't handle skiing anymore. Fine, okay, don't ski. But what are the components of that activity that you used to love? And how can you take that to your life right now and still create something that you love? So it's a very empowering exercise and it gives you some good ideas. And it also reminds you that you're not broken. You're not completely empty. You have plenty of life experience to draw from. And there's been some real good in your past too that you can still carry forward.
So what are some of the passions you've discovered along the way, and how have you intentionally integrated them into your passion-filled life?
Oh, it's so funny because, I'm the passion woman. So, some days I'm like, gosh, I need to have more passion stuff because honestly, so much of my passion is my work. I know that's a bit cliche, but it's true. In the book, I talk about my passion for Formula One. I talk about it in a spark where we're talking about shame. And people trying to sort of maybe unintentionally judge you for your passions. Some of the passions that we have may not necessarily fit the image that people have of us or the identity that we've built. So I tell a story about me sharing this passion with one of my former business mentors. And he kind of looked at me like, really? You? I still remember him saying that. And I remember the feeling of, ugh. and thinking, no, actually, I do love this, and here's why. I love Formula One. I love the strategy. It's a very British thing. It sort of connects me to home. I love the personalities. I've loved it for a long time, but actually went to see a race a couple of years ago. My husband took me for a birthday gift in Austin, Texas, and it was unbelievable. So I love that. I also love genealogy. So I dig into my family history quite a bit. And by the way, one of the traits of a harmonious passion is connection. So oftentimes, if you're doing something you love, one of the reasons is that it's connecting you to yourself, to an idea, or to other people. So family history, for me, is about connecting to England, to connecting to my people I've never even met in my life, but also uncovering details and information. I've found the name for my great-grandfather that no one in our family ever knew. At least no one living. So I found his name. Wow. I discovered that I had two, great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers who were transported to Australia. Wow. I know. I mean, okay. But it fascinates. And to me, that's connection. Yeah. And it's just fun. Yeah. You know, it's just fun. So those are two examples. There's lots of other things that I try and make time for. But yeah, they're very, very different. One is more academic and on my own, going down rabbit holes. And then the other one is sort of loud and out there and roaring engines and sort of screaming at Lewis Hamilton. It's very different, but there are a lot of themes there.
Wow. I'm just sitting here smiling because I can see the passion and the energy. I mean, your book, Born to Buzz, is such a perfect title because I can just see all that energy as you even talk about these things.
Well, thank you. That's what I'm hoping that people take away from the book. One of the misunderstandings and one of the ways that people are sort of persuaded against passion are from some of the influencers who will talk about, and these are people like Simon Sinek, Scott Galloway, Mark Manson, those guys who are very, very popular and often have some great content. But with passion, they're often a little bit wrong, frankly. They'll often tell us that passion is an outcome. It's a result.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it isn't. I mean, sure. I mean, ideally, passion is something that you get at the end. But the mistake they make is that they claim that it's only at the end. And so it's this idea that we've been sold about just grinding it out, doing another 15, 20 years, or whatever it is, right? We tell ourselves these stories that I'm not as happy and fulfilled as I should be right now, or I'm not the leader that I want to be right now. I guess I could do more of that, but I just need to get here first. I mean, this is where the bucket list came from. We'll talk about retirement, which is super important. But some of these loud voices are telling us that passion is not something that should be prioritized. And also, it's sort of this thing that we generate, that we get, this reward. I'm flipping that to say, actually, no, it's in us. It's inside. And it's our job as humans to develop it and nurture it, because if not, we're missing a huge opportunity to help each other, to share that energy with other people. And in the business world, a massive opportunity. Think about it. Your team, let's say you've got a team of 100 employees at your company. Passion is incredibly unique. I mean, the activities may be similar. You may love football and I may love football, but the way we approach that passion, our experience with it, how we engage with it, why we love it, the skills we build around it are all very, very unique. So you've got 100 people in your business with this incredible energy, skills, dedication, devotion to things. And potentially you're just ignoring it because the word passion puts you off and you'd rather talk about purpose. You know, think of those 100 people and think of the power of that dynamic with your team. If you could just, you know, create space and opportunity for them to share more of that within your organization. It's huge. It's huge.
Huge. And the results that come from that. I mean, engagement and meaning. I mean, I can see the power of finding ways to leverage that passion for the good of the human, which then has a cascading effect.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I see in organizations is people feeling like they can be more of themselves. So a great example, I was working with Griner Construction incredible construction firm here in town. I was in doing a workshop with them last year, and it was a mixed gender group, so men, women, they were all seniorities, titles, different experiences. And at one part of the workshop, we were talking about our passions outside of work and if anybody's been able to do more of it inside of their work. And the head of safety said that he recently, because he loves photography. So this is the safety guy at a construction company, right? The guy who's meant to be mitigating all the risk. You wouldn't think that that's a quote unquote creative job. You know, you've got to make sure that you're saving people's lives and protecting people's lives. He absolutely loves photography, passionate about it. He has been able, with the help of the organization, to actually bring in his love for photography to one of the services of the organization. So he sort of does drone photography now for their projects, and he's been able to sort of integrate more of that into the work that they're doing. I was fascinated by this because he was a mid to late career professional with a ton of expertise and an identity in one area. But as he talked about his photography and how he was able to do more of that at work, you could tell it was more of him. And the business benefits from that too. And it's not about taking advantage of people. It's not about saying, well, great, just give us that for free because you love it. Griner does such a great job in bringing all of their people together in that way and doing it for the right reasons as well. So yeah, there are tons of benefits to that. It just typically isn't the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. So Laura, what are some practical ways that organizations can really foster this opportunity in their workplace environments?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that because sometimes passion, as I said, it's seen as this sort of woo-woo, nice conversation. And many organizations have good intentions about building energy and motivation in their employees. And sometimes it feels a bit like we're going to flip the switch and suddenly we're going to activate our employees. It's like activate, you know what I mean? So anybody who's built culture knows, and certainly if you're trying to build a successful culture, you know that it's so much more complicated than that. But a couple of different examples. At a very foundational level, if you're at top leadership of your organization or in corporate communications or employee talent, etc., if you have town halls, and if you have ways that you're bringing your people together on a regular basis, find a way to talk about passion. Find a way to demonstrate and showcase ways that employees or leaders are doing more of what they love in their work and their life. That can be a very visual way and a fun way to elevate people and to give people a stage to talk about why they love what they love. Another program that has kind of gone by the wayside for many organizations simply due to cost, but I think it's such an important way to give employees space, is to consider sabbaticals. I call these passion sabbaticals. So wouldn't it be wonderful at the organization where you worked, where obviously after a period of time, a couple of years maybe, the organization funded a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, for you to pursue that thing that you love in your work or outside of your work. So it could be an art class, it could be a retreat, it could be, think of the possibilities, right? It could be getting that certification. And I know many organizations fund skills building and learning, and that's all fantastic, but naming a program and showing that it's a priority for the organization to help me nurture my passions is such a visual and strong piece. And also, organizations who do this well obviously ask the employees to come back and share their experience. So you just went to a refugee camp in Uganda for a week to help build a library. What did you learn? Tell us about it, Susan. What an amazing experience. So that can be really, really enriching for the organization. So 2 different ways of doing it, sort of corporate communications, employee, but then also programs and policies are hugely important to really making sure that passion isn't just a fly-by-the-night thing that we talk about, that it's rooted in the culture of your organization, especially if you're an organization who has "We Are Passionate" in your values or on the homepage of your website. As with any of these practices, we've got to make sure that we're creating space for our teams to actually pursue and nurture this in whatever way you need to. And of course, the one thing I'm forgetting is making dedicated time for your teams to come together and share their passions and help each other with it. So one of my favorite pieces of my keynotes is always where we bring the attendees together, even if it's a small group or a large group, and we get them to share more of what they love. And we do this in a structured way. It's literally like a champagne cork popping in the room. It's like magic because you're telling me something more about yourself that you love. I'm saying, really? I love that too. Or gosh, I never knew. I'm thinking of ways that I can help you all of a sudden. I'm giving you support. It's magic.
Yeah.
Instead of hiding behind our screens, putting on our armor, thinking that we need to show up in a particular way, let's open the door for our teams to really share more of that energy and to help each other with it.
I love that so much. And that allows people to see others fully and feel seen themselves in a workplace environment.
It does, because the beautiful thing about passions is you can have loads of them. You can have many, 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 many passions. And there is a term called multi-passionate or multi-passionate, if I was doing it in my American accent. Like I say, I love Formula One, baking, family history, writing, research, books, keynotes. I mean, anybody who is more connected to their passions will tell you they have many of them. It forms part of who we are. It creates life experiences for ourselves that could potentially help other people. They're incredibly powerful things, our passions. But if we forget about them, or if we don't nurture them and we don't prioritize them, then just like everything else in life, they go by the wayside. And I think that's a real shame.
Well, you've definitely inspired me to ensure that I'm intentionally nurturing and prioritizing the passions.
Well, that's good. Be passion first.
What's something you'd leave us with today, Laura?
Oh gosh, just, I think it's what I said earlier on. We have one life. I know that we have responsibilities. We have people we love and lead. But remember, this is your life. And there are things that are going to light you up. There are things that are going to give you such tremendous fulfillment and contribution, even if it's only an hour or two a week. Try to avoid thinking in an all or nothing mindset with your passions. Try to find an hour this weekend to do something that you love. And I promise that remember at the beginning I said, what is this energy that's coming back? I would love to hear from your listeners and viewers about their experience with that. Give yourself an hour and see what happens. Don't be hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself as you're exploring this territory, but recognize it and carry it forward.
I love that. What an energizing conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me. I've really appreciated your insights and wisdom.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to our listeners. Join us next week for another episode of Leadership Matters.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Leadership Matters. If today's episode resonated with you, would you do me a favor and share it with someone you care about? To learn more about the work the Bailey Group is doing in the world, check us out at thebaileygroup.com or follow us over on LinkedIn. We love sharing useful articles, helpful resources, and valuable tools to help you expand your leadership capacity. Like and subscribe, and join us next time for more honest conversations.